Hi, I'm Michael Hartman,
I'm Naomi Liu.
And I'm Mike Rizzo, and this is OpsCast,
a podcast for marketing ops pros
and RevOps pros.
Created by the Mo Pros, the #1 community for marketing operations professionals.
Tune in to each episode as we chat with real professionals to help elevate you in your marketing operations career.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of OpsCast, brought to you by MarketingOps.com, powered by the Mo Pros. I'm your host, Michael Hartman, joined today by one co-host, Mike Rizzo, who's been he just flew in. So, Mike.
Yes, I just zoomed right in. Thank you. I'm back.
But I was zoomed right in.
I just zoomed right in because we're doing this on Zoom today. And I was at the Mopsapalooza venue site visit, getting ready for a big event. So that was exciting.
All right. Mopsapalooza, September, October. I should know this. I know I should know this. There's a reason why we haven't had episodes. Okay, November. Wow. See?
November.
I can only keep a few more dates in my head with all the projects I have going on. So, sorry.
Fair. It's okay.
Shame on me. All right. Well, let's get this party started because we've got our guest today, Sil Giuliani. We are going to be talking to him a little bit about, a couple of different things, but I think ultimately it kind of comes down to the sort of pending or increasing need to have first-party cookies and how that applies to marketing operations. So, Sil is currently head of growth at Sensis, a reverse ETL provider, which I don't even know what that means, so he might have to tell us what that is. But he is also an active member of several communities, primarily in the revenue space. He's also an investor, mentor, and has experience with several startups, both as a founder and a leader. So, Sylvan, thanks for joining us and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. What the hell is reverse ETL, by the way? I just got to ask.
I mean, reverse ETL is the act of getting data out of your cloud data warehouse that is usually powering like your BI tools and getting the data into your operational tools such as, Marketo, HubSpot, Salesforce, you name it. Like we have 100+ integration nowadays. So, next time someone says like, hey, I see this data in Looker, I wish I could do something about this churn problem. Who are the people who churn? Well, you can use reverse ETL to identify the people who are churning, get them into Marketo, and so you can send them emails before they churn, for example.
Got it. Okay. All right. That makes a little sense. Yeah. All right. That was not intended to be a pitch. I just I saw that term and I was like, I don't know what that means. I kind of know what it means, but all right.
We need more on the topic. In fact, we were talking to Sil and their team about helping us learn more about the topic. So I think there's probably more of that coming soon.
Okay.
Because there's not enough of us that know what reverse ETL is, that's for sure. So we're excited about it.
This whole idea of we're now recording it's Cinco de Mayo 2023 as we're recording, and there's been the latest MarTech landscape just came out earlier this week, maybe late last week, and what's the number? 14,000? Is that what I saw? I haven't had a chance to look at it. It's over 10,000. I know that, but
so it's 11,000 something now.
This whole need to sort of stitch together data, I think, is a big one. So yeah, definitely a topic we probably need to dig deeper into at some point. So just Sylvan, we'll have to bring you back on for that maybe.
I love it.
But one of those things is probably first party cookies, right? So you and I had a conversation quite a while ago, but and things maybe have changed a little bit, but. Kind of I'd love your take on kind of where things are with first party versus third party. It's been a while since I think we actually had a guest on over a year ago talking about this a little bit, but more so from the sort of deprecation of third party data or intent data. But what are you seeing? What are the trends, impacts? Is there any equality stuff? Just a general overview.
Yeah, no, I mean, the cookie apocalypse happened, I feel like in our space. I think, if you think back a couple of years back, as a marketer, you were using one of those 10,000 tools out there. And to get data in, your HubSpot Marketo, it was very simple. You just slap some JavaScript code in your app, like on your website, or some code SDK in your mobile app, right? And it will do all the tracking for you. Facebook will do all the attribution for you. Will tell you the conversion rate of all of your campaigns, things like that. So didn't require any kind of like data skill sets or data transformation skill set. Then cookie identity happened, and all that data basically went away, or you have very low confidence about it because it's getting blocked and it's just not possible to track it basically, right? And so what we're seeing, as Sensus, as someone who like talked to a lot of like data team and marketing team who are using data, is like a huge shift to first party data, right? And so what is first party data really? I mean, it's kind of like the same thing, but you are the one generating it and not a third party vendor. So it's like, if you go on Sensus website today, we're going to track your click, right? But it's like our own library is tracking your click, so nobody's blocking it. Ad doesn't block it, right? So, or it's event that might be happening on the server side, right? So, when you create a document in Figma, like that event is generated on the server side, so nothing can block it, right? So we can know, Sil create a document in Figma and he shared it with Michael, right? So that's again, like that's an event that is first party data, and then you want to again, as a marketer, you want to consume that data because you want to build like audiences, segmentation. Maybe you want to do some transactional email or push notification based on like a trigger that they achieve. Like, hey, you shared like 10 documents in Figma, something like that, right? And so that data goes to the warehouse, that first party data goes to the warehouse, and then you want to sync it again to a tool like Marketo. That's how a tool like Sensus comes in handy, right? There's other ways to do it. You can just write custom script, get the data team to write code for you. But most importantly, it's like what we see is like a lot of marketing people wanting to have self-serve access, the mythical, like, I don't want to talk to your data team to self-serve the data, like kind of like what you used to have with like the third-party data. That's what we see, and that's kind of like the shift that is happening. We can talk a lot about like CDPs, the rise and demise of CDP. It's also powered by this kind of like trend, I would say. But I will stop there to see if that's answer your question.
The rise and demise of CDPs. It was a quick one if there's demise already. But so there's two things that are going on. I think two things that strike me about this. One is this sort of move away from third-party data, reliance on that. Feels like it's like a down negative thing, but there's a potential upside to first-party data, but it also comes with extra. You need different additional skill sets maybe and tools to capture even more data than you're already capturing. And I don't know about you, but most marketing ops teams I know are already swimming in data, but not able to do much with it. So how do we feels like two sort of challenges at the same time.
Yeah. And I think that's like there's like next to the cookie apocalypse, I would say, or third party data apocalypse, right? Like there was a big trend in the back, which was like the rise of the warehouse. Like, so the past few years, storing data, transforming data has never been that easy. Like, it's like it's very cheap to deploy, it's very cheap to implement. And so on the other side of your business, an IT team, a data team are probably invested tremendous amount of time and money into building a warehouse and ultimately a BI solution. Like, like there's a executive team or board meeting that is being powered by a dashboard somewhere, right? And so all that data is being cleaned, transformed, because big decisions are being made on that data, right? And so that's the big shift that happened in the back. And so now it's like, as marketing team, that's great because we can just build on top of that work. Like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to. That's why I say like the demise of CDP, right? Because the CDP is like you have to redo all that work from scratch again as a marketing team. Like nowadays, a lot of solutions plug into the warehouse. I'm not even talking about Sensus, but you see, like if you're a Braze customer, HubSpot customer, you will see them. They're talking about like, hey, we can connect to the warehouse. We can send data to the warehouse. Like, everybody's trying to make a warehouse the first-class citizen, right? And so as a marketing team, we can leverage the work that has been done by IT and data team and then just consume data that we can trust, right? And I think that's like also a thing that is accelerating the adoption of first-party data because you don't have to start from scratch, essentially, right? So all of those events that we talked about that is happening in the background, like number of documents created, who created those documents, like anything like that, all of that already exists. Like it's powering BI report, you can just reuse it as a marketing team, right? And I think that's one of the biggest, accelerator of that trend.
Hey everyone, Mike Rizzo here, CEO of MarketingOps.com and co-host of OpsCast. I've got a little secret to share with you, something that's been one of the best kept perks of our community until now. At MarketingOps.com, we've built a hiring program that's changing the game for marketing operations recruitment, and we're finally sharing it with the world. Our community is over 22,000 strong, And within that, we have over 4,400 members who are actively and passively seeking new opportunities. These are seasoned professionals with skills and experience spanning platforms like HubSpot, Pardot, Marketo, and so much more. Plus, we can help you fine-tune your outreach, targeting exactly the right candidates by region, years of experience, seniority level, or even agency experience. But here's the real cherry on top. When you hire through our program, your new team member gets a free membership or a virtual ticket to our annual conference. From day one, they're not just stepping into a new role, they're getting access to the training, networking, and support they need to hit the ground running. So if you're ready to unlock this incredible opportunity, it's time to let this secret out. Visit marketingops.com and find your next star teammate today. Thanks for listening, and as always, keep optimizing.
Yeah, I think a lot of this layers into there's, the PLG motion for us, for the SaaS companies out there where they're trying to understand, you were hinting at, you've shared 10 links from Figma, right? So like this idea that you're collecting usage behavior from your first party sort of interactions. And I think it's important, for the audience out there to understand that the death of the cookie, so to speak, isn't around this concept of, your HubSpot and Munchkin codes and all that stuff. That's not going away. You've been doing that and it's not going anywhere. Those are first-party cookies. That is your data. It is collected. It is not going to go anywhere. People can turn off the cookie, consent banner, and yes, that part will stop flowing just like any other cookie.
But that's already happening today.
But that's already happening today. So in large part, I would love, and I'm going to interject here, and this is where Michael loves me because I just jump in on things, and despite the outline, I'm sure we were probably getting here. I would love for you to say, to just share your thoughts on, really is the B2B marketer at the end of the day, small to medium size, even the enterprise, are they really impacted by this idea of the cookie being retired and going away? It feels like it's more of the e-com side of things and the consumer, the B2C consumer than anything else.
I think for sure, the small companies with less resource or e-coms, things like that, they are getting destroyed because, again, it was so easy to just inject the Facebook, tracker, right? That's the thing. You don't have to be a genius. You copy paste this thing, or even worse, sometimes you have a direct integration. You don't even know what's happening, but you're starting to track, right? Yeah, they are getting impacted. I think because that's going away, it makes it harder for even larger company to do quickly deployment. Now if let's take an example. We, the three of us, we work at a normal size B2B company, 300 people, right? And we're hey, you know what? We're going to start doing advertising on TikTok, right? So now we can't just put the tracker, right? Now it's okay, we need to sync our audience somehow, so because we want to retarget. So how do we do that? Okay, we can do a CSV upload once in a while. Okay, that sucks, but I can kind of do it, but it sucks, right? And then it's but really, I need to send conversion event to feed the machine, the algorithm of TikTok to say, hey, this is a good audience. Keep showing the ads to the right people to train their algorithm, right? And then to do that, you need to send event. Again, you can do the Monday morning CSV upload, right? It's okay, but you don't have that easiness of just plug the system together and it just work. And you're oh, where's my conversion event coming from, right? Okay, some of them are coming from HubSpot, like you said. Those trackers are not going away. If you're hey, a demo form request, HubSpot, create a tracking demo form, for the mission. Nobody's going to tell you to take that away. But again, if you want to say, hey, I'll give you some example of our customers, right? It's hey, they show awareness ads. So B2B PLG company, right? They show awareness ads or feature that you are not using. So they're hey, Mike, we know that you are a Notion user, right? You're in our user audience. But you've not even tried our new AI feature, right? For example. And so they're going to retarget you aggressively everywhere until you start using the AI, right? And so that's kind of those dynamic audience. This is where it's get more complicated. And before it was still relatively easy to do with the third-party tracker. Now it's just impossible without some infrastructure or help from data and engineering, right? So that's I think that's how they get impacted. It's not like it's impossible, but it's just like an extra hoop that they have to jump through that they didn't have to do it before.
Since I actually am the one here who has worked at larger companies, currently working at a large company. Like, I don't think there's really much differentiating there. You were heading where I expected you to go, Sil, which was when Mike asked that question. I suspected the issue was actually how do you push that first party data to those advertising platforms now to do the targeting in different ways. And it sounds like that's going to be the new challenge, because they're going to be dependent on general stuff that they will probably still try to package and keep to the, but it's going to be relatively, if I remember right, it's going to be chunks of a few thousand people as opposed to, hundreds or dozens or whatever is the right appropriate amount for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And to me, there's like this kind of like duality, right? It's like, as a marketer, like, you go to any marketer in the world and you say, hey, we're going to build like audiences. Like, nobody's going to be like, oh my God, this is a novel concept, right? It's more like, how do we build better audiences? Like, I already have 100, but like, I need to go even further. I need to personalize more. And so it's like, I know I want to do it. What's stopping me is like access to that data, right? And so you took some of the things away from me by having like this kind of third party coming away, or like that kind of like third party side of the house. And so this is also why you see a lot more first party data being used, right? Because like, oh, I want to do an ad targeting that is like, location based, usage based, like historical purchase based, like yada yada. And so it's like, you start talking to people. I mean, I was talking to like a large gaming company, right? And for them, it's like, we have audiences in the order of magnitude of like 100,000 audiences, right? And it's just like everything is like programmatically done, and it's all powered by first-party data, right? Like, and and I asked them, yeah, I mean, that sounds like a lot of work. Is it even worth it, like to go that big, right? Like in terms of like size of audience, and for them, it's worth it because they have large user base, and it's not about reaching to people. They can reach anyone, but it's like reaching the people to the right place with the right message, right? And that's the only thing, that's the power of first party data, is like, they know that Seal plays on Xbox and like Call of Duty, right? And Mike, you're more like a PlayStation person or a PC person, and you like a Blizzard game or something like that of them, and they'll show you the right ad in the right place at the right time, instead of like spending the ad dollars showing ads to everybody. It was like, why I keep seeing ad for World of Warcraft? I'm a Call of Duty person, right? Like, that type of vibe. So that's the
how like, so my understanding, because I haven't had the opportunity to really work with them a whole lot, but these intent data platforms, right? I assumed they're pretty reliant on third party cookies. Is that true, or is it like, are they going to be like affected by this as well? So in other words, then are the marketers who are relying on intent data for, whether they're using it for lead scoring or whatever they're using it for to prioritize targets or whatever, you think they're going to be affected?
I think it depends on where your intent data is coming from. Like, it's a total like reverse IP lookup play, and for people from working from home, that's a challenge. But people going back to the office, that's helping. And then I think it's also like G2, for example, the review platform, they've got a crap ton of intent data that they can signal out back to people, but that's their first party intent data.
Right.
So like, there's value in that data.
There's not too much issue there, like intent data. I mean, we can go into debate, is it even worth investing in those? But like, maybe a topic for another day. Like,
I was going to bring up the same subject. I was I don't want to throw like cast raw, whatever on those folks, but maybe I could get some intent people to come on and tell me about why it works.
Yeah, I think it works well for a very thin slice of the market, and it works extremely well for them. But everybody else, it's kind of like us, a money pit that doesn't bring you anything. That's my hot take on it. But I think from an identification point of view, there's no issue, because you just need an identity key, right? Like, if you use G2 as an example, here's like, G2 is going to be like, hey, this company called Accenture.com is looking to buy like a warehouse, right? Like, and so the only thing that you need is like this identity, like the account and website, what's the domain? Sorry, like that's the thing. And it'll be the same for people. It'd be like, hey, this Sil Giannelli guy is doing something, right? And so as long as you can match those two identity, that's okay. And that doesn't really require third party data. I mean, you could, like, using like cookies, like cross-site cookie, but like that's going away. But like I think nobody really relies on that anymore. I mean, as far as I know.
Yeah. Oh, I think what's interesting too, and I know we've got some other things we want to dive into here, but around this, like the innovation that's going to take place on the platform side, right? Like not the marketing automation technology side and the 11,000 vendors there, but more on the ad tech side, right? So like you see, there's like LinkedIn lead forms, right? Like they're going to use that as your conversion signal now. And they may even like, I could see a business case where platforms like LinkedIn and Facebook and all those other providers are going to optimize for you to have potentially lower cost per conversion to go use those ad platforms that hook up to their own lead conversion metrics versus trying to send you off platform to go track a conversion and do the whole back and forth thing. They're going to be like, no, you know what? Just get your lead form here.
Right.
And then they're probably going to be like, you know what? Just upload your list. In fact, take your data, upload your list over here and run your email campaign out of our platform. And it's like, so like, I feel like there's going to be this big shift in MarTech around the outbound marketing capabilities on the platform side.
I mean, like you're 100% right. I mean, if you look at LinkedIn ad performance, right? Like, I mean, you run exactly the same ad, same audience. One is a leading lead gen form, right? So form on LinkedIn, you never leave the website. The other one is the same thing, but you click, you have to go to a landing page. Like the leading lead gen, like obliterates like the conversion rate of the offsite conversion, right? And you know, like LinkedIn tell you straight up, like you should do it. Like the UI, like they make it on purpose that the non-form converts less, the buttons are smaller, the click zones are smaller, right? Like it's made for you to direct you to just keep people on LinkedIn. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
totally.
You know, like of course.
And then the conversion tracking is there, right? Like, yeah, it's already happening. And all the conversion tracking is happening on their platform, which means it's like there's this like false sense of security that like, oh, cool, like I've got all the things that I need. But to your point earlier, when you want to start to layer in the deeper segments of like, well, I really need to target somebody that hasn't used XYZ feature and is in a particular region, there's no way to be able to do that connection anymore, which is why, you know, marketers need to be paying attention to this stuff.
So, okay, so how will the, and this may be, I know, so you and I were talking before we started about like AI, ChatGPT, and how that may, I think there may be a tie in here, but like one of the things we all want to get to with our marketing teams and marketing ops teams is to better understand like what's the preferred channel that people want to be communicated through, right? Or that performs best in terms of whatever it is we're trying to optimize. How is this, I guess two parts of it. How is the cookie situation going to affect that, do you think? And then second, is there, like you're describing all this sort of intelligence, whether it's built into the platforms like LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, or us having data and then trying to deploy it in the right way back out to them. How, like, is there a play for AI in this somehow? I don't know what that looks like.
I think you decompose like the problems in like three buckets, right? It's like one is like, how do I collect as much data as possible, which is first party data? Like, so even like, identify preferred channel, like you need to know which channel works well for each individual, right? So again, if you think in terms of first party data, it's like, well, I know Sil is a human. Okay. That's his email address, is his ID on different platforms. So I've sold identity resolution across as many channels as possible. And now I collect data of like, oh, he consumes email, he opens email, he replies to email, he clicks on email, right? So a lot of first party data stream coming from that. And it's like, well, I know email is the cheapest channel I have, so I'm going to use that first-party data to actually exclude Sil from all of the other channels. So I'm not going to show him ads on LinkedIn because I can get to him for free via emails, right, or via in-app messaging, right, or whatever platform you have, right. Then if you think about like a third-party platform, ad platform, or even like social platform, right, like a lot of community, like a lot of things happen in Slack community now. So there's like I think like there's something called Marketing Ops. MOPS platform community, something like that out there, right? And it's like, how do you track the engagement there? Well, it's like you have to do deep link, like UTM trackers, things like that. So again, like you can collect that, oh, this link is unique to Sil because he has like his own like anonymized ID, and he clicked it on TikTok, right? For example, on the DM on TikTok or WhatsApp message on TikTok, right? So it's like I can get that data back and be like, oh, looks like Sil interacts a lot on WhatsApp or whatever platform you talk about, right? And so I think that's one, like is collecting that data. Second point is like, how do we make sense of that data, right? Like, so I think this is where historically the best companies...
That is the big question in my mind.
yeah, historically it was gotta go hire a bunch of data scientist people, essentially, right? Or like, during the Kool-Aid of one of the many martech marketing messages, like, no, just give us your data. We put it in the black box. Insight comes out. You don't know how it works, but trust us, that's how it works. Like, that's basically. But again, it costs you money. I think right now what's interesting is like, GPT is starting to be very good. I mean, as a technologist, something that is really good at like pattern matching, identify things. Like I'm running like myself right now, just experimental, like using GPT to do identity resolution, for example, and that works extremely well. Like like it can detect that these two humans like are almost the same, and it's like, hey, we should do something with it. We should match them with a high level of confidence, right? And so, I think again, like there's going to be a way to repackage this kind of like GPT technology to kind of like make it like as a feature of a product. I'm not saying like you're going to go in ChatGPT and be like, hey, what's the difference between these two mics kind of thing. But like, it's going to be very easy to build this feature to make marketing life easier, right? And then the third bucket, right, is like, cool, I got my data, got my insight. What do I do with it, right? Because like, how do I deploy? How do I activate my data in marketing speak, right? And I think that's the next thing. And so again, like these three buckets, like you need to be exceptional at these three things to be best of breed marketers nowadays. Like, you like if you can be good at one and that gets you ahead of the pack, but like the best in class marketing team that I've met are, they are world class at these things. Yeah. All of the data, super accessible, high confidence, they generate tons of insight of it, and they know what to do with the data, and they deploy it in like super tactical advertising campaign, email nurture campaign, like, empowering your sales team with insight to be like, hey, this account is, this account is at risk, this account is ready to upsell, things like that. Like that's what the best marketing team do nowadays. Sorry. But that's my take. That's how AI could fit into it.
Wow. So I bet there's a lot of people out there listening like me where we know we have gaps or challenges with our data. Either it's not complete, not normalized, right, on key things that we typically would use. Could something like that help with data cleansing kind of stuff as well?
Yeah. Well, I think that like this is where it depends on the type of company you have. Like, I think historically humans are still like, like if you talk to a data engineer or data analyst, like they're going to tell you 60% of their job is like data transformation. It's a nice way to say it.
Right.
Data cleaning, right?
Yep.
And I think that's not going to go away anytime soon. I think, like AI, things like that's going to make that life a lot easier. Like, I mean, go to ChatGPT right now, pass like 20 phone numbers with completely different format, and you say, put all of that into like intentional formats, ISO standard, whatever the ISO standard. It just does it, right? Like, same thing, pass like the company name of like one with Inc., one with LTD, one with .com, and say, just put them into normal company name, human readable. It just does it, right? Like, so I think that's going to help you tremendously, like cleaning your data. I don't think it's still ready to like transform your data and make sense of data.
It's not going to do it in an automated way. You still have to prompt it and give it the clues.
No, you can prompt it. Like, I mean, you can just be like, this is my raw, company name. And then, the other one is like, use GPT to clean it by making like human readable. And it just kind of like, just keep doing it over and over, getting your data set. Like, that's like this tools already does it. And more like, this is just going to be a new normal, like for most of the tools.
Sure.
Because it's so cheap and approachable to build things.
Yeah. And the other thing that, so I bet the first thing that came to mind when you talked about like matching two identities from different places that look like they're a match was, one of the challenges I think everybody runs into is you got a really good client at your company. They move to a similar role or to another company. Like, how do you follow them so you can go pursue them as a new client at that company? That may actually be possible if I'm understanding what you're describing.
Yeah, I mean it's possible today, right? Like, I mean, there's a bunch of tools out there. Gem, Apollo does it. Like, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's like you're going to be late when. I think there's two things, like knowing that person joined, right? So it's like, it goes into product building, but like, LinkedIn is a good place. You can scrape LinkedIn. You can I wait for an email to bounce. Like, I send an email to my user, right? And it's like, oh, it bounced. I guess it's not there. So I can at least understand he's not at this company anymore, right? So I think that's going to be that's just a different set of product. Like I think this is not where AI is going to be able to help you like magically, because it needs a data set. I mean, if you want to check something, it's called peoplegpt.io. It's got announced yesterday, and it's like a chat GPT interface that you can create a lot of people, and you can be like, hey, show me all the marketing of people that looks like Mike Rizzo, and I also have like thousands of followers on Twitter. And it's like, or like changed job recently, and it just give you all the list, right? It's like human readable, like NLP to query a database of people and prospects. Nice.
Wow, crazy.
That's amazing. Like I am actually sort of speechless right now. I can't decide if I'm amazed or if I'm frightened. So
I don't know. I mean, having come from the world of like, I started my career in ad tech, and like once I figured out how all this stuff worked, and of course we're literally in the midst of a conversation about how that whole world is changing right now. But like, I don't know, when you go from that to where we're headed now, I'm like, should we really be that surprised? Like, people
no,
are pretty, you know, and I don't know, they're engineering new outcomes now to try to solve for these problems that, you know, they're like, well, I want it to be the way it used to be, so I'm going to try to find my workaround on all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'm not surprised either, because I started my career in marketing. I went from doing financial systems and warehouses to building a consumer database. And this was a long time ago, 30 years ago, to call it. And even then, right, there was when I saw what was available to almost the household level, I was just stunned. And then it's only gotten more robust and more data points, more activity and all that.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah, I take like Google, Facebook, the more first party data you feed them, the more they learn and the more they better target. It's like, it's kind of like an AI, but the buzz was not made around it, and for good reason. They want to say like, oh, we have this AI that allows you to target everybody. It's like, that sounds sketchy. But now the cat is out of the bag. It's like, so this GPT thing is kind of like what we were doing with ads. Like, kind of, I guess you could say that. Like, that's what it was doing.
Hyper targeting at the individual level, right? It's just it's good and like really good at it.
Yeah, it's like good. It's really scary good at it. I have a question for you, Sil, on just sort of your thoughts on like. I've been tussling a bit with, I think so the underlying message, or maybe the direct message, if it was said very plainly, is look, you need to know what to do with the data, right? We just got done sort of talking about it. My challenge though is like, is that do you feel that there's a role today like that actually tries to take that responsibility on? Like, you actually said the best of breed marketers figure this out, but like, is that just a new marketer that we're talking about? Like a new future kind of marketer? Or is it the data team? Like, are they going to become quasi marketers? Like, I don't know. Who's responsible for this?
I mean, that's a great question. Like, it's like, who's going to eat wood? Like, there's always that debate is like, is data team just going to become like marketing team, or is marketing team going to absorb data team, right? Or like ops teams or whatever, right? It's like, there's always this, I think it's just a new skill set. I think if you today, the problem that I see in most organizations is like, it's so compartmentalized, right? It's like, hey, I'm a demand gen person. My job is to build campaign messaging and like, promote offers, right? Whether it's an ebook, an event, a webinar, whatever. And so it's like I focus on such a thin slice, and then something, marketing ops is like, well, I'm just operationalize what the demand gen person wants. Like, they want to do a webinar, they want to put a nurture before and after. So I'm just going to do the thing that they told me to do, kind of like as a system level, right? And I think because of this kind of like ultra specialization, like nobody's kind of like thinking about the overarching, like what is the customer journey and what data fits into this whole thing, right? Like, I think that's like, I think there's no role for that. And I think this is kind of like, so because of that, it's a new skill that everybody should have, right? It's like, I was talking to, I would not name this company, right? But like they, by design, they're ultra data savvy and automation. They do data and automation, everything, right? But they, by design, never hire marketing people in marketing, right? It's like, if you have done marketing before, you are corrupt, right? And so therefore, you can't work for us because you don't have this kind of like data automation mindset that we need, right? Like, and they're like, we can teach you marketing and messaging and things like that, but we can't teach you being like data curious and like this kind of computer science engineering mindset, right? And I'm not saying it's bad or right or wrong, but like, it's a different approach, right? It's like, you need that skill set, right? Like, this is a new type of people.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I could argue about whether or not they could also teach some of the data analysis stuff too as well, but like that. But the point, I get that.
But like, there's a difference. I do think you can teach somebody like the what and the how goes into what Sil's talking about from that team, but like, there's a difference between like systems thinking and like data orchestration and data architecture, and then like therefore marketecture that like goes into that, and like object orientation and how those things all sort of work together. Like, there's a difference between that, like, oh, I need to make sure we have access to this data in this structured way, like, because it can get concatenated and then we're going to be able to turn it into a string, and the JSON response, we're going to be able to do da-da-da-da-da. There's a difference between that level of thinking and someone who is like, who's trying to activate on that data. And then somebody who's like, okay, like, if I showed you this JSON response, do you know what you're looking at? And they'd be like, I have no idea. And it's like, could you figure out if we told you that we could do such and such with the data, what would you do next? There's like, there's a very big difference between those types of systems thinkers.
Yeah, someone told me it's like, it's like knowing impossible is it's nothing. As using the Adidas tagline, right? It's like there's a lot of marketing people out there that just don't know what they could do, right? Like, it's just because
it's the art of the possible.
It's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, that's cool, but I don't know what I can do. Again, I'm not saying it's everywhere, but like, it's the school of thoughts, the way we were trained is to just focus on certain things, and like this kind of like tidal wave of data that is coming is like, if you're not forced to use it, you can kind of coastline and just be good enough, right? And it's nothing bad about it.
So you're hitting on where I was going to take a little bit of issue. Like, I get what you're both saying. I still think I'm not going to say everybody, right? But there are going to be people, and this comes from my own experience, where like, when I got out of college, I actually just told the story recently to somebody else. We worked at Price Waterhouse. They sent you off for 3 months to get trained in their way of doing, at that time, COBOL programming, right? Mostly, right? But how you did consulting work for them. And they had cohorts of people all the time going through this training center. And my cohort was this one lady who had just graduated from Duke with a religion major, and teaching her how to code was easy, right? Because she knew how to learn. So I think there's there's two things you need, sort of baseline, right? You need a certain level of aptitude, right, and knowledge and ability to learn, and a desire to learn.
Yes. And
then you need attitude, right? You need to be like, you have to have the desire. You have to be coachable. You have to be willing to try stuff and fail and learn. And I think that would be the missing piece to me. Like, if somebody was in that more traditional marketing and wanted to move it to the kind of role you're talking about. That's why I was like resisting that, because I think in a lot of cases we underestimate how much people could actually learn, even if it's outside of the domain they think of as their expertise.
No. I think, look, everybody can learn something, right? I think to the point of what you were talking about, that team that says like, hey, you've sort of been corrupted. Yeah, I think that's a little bit, extreme potentially. But I think there is a difference between where, like, Sil, you hinted at it just a second ago. And interestingly, it's a conversation I was having with Juan Mendoza, who you've spoken to, I think, before, Sil, potentially. He's the founder of TMW, the MarTech Weekly. And so we were having our monthly catch up last night. And one of the things we were talking about was like, we both recently have sort of been gone out into the fray on like, hey, we're just going to try to figure out how to make ends meet, right? Like I was put into a situation now where I'm like, all right, I got to do marketingapps.com, some consulting work to keep the lights on, and he went out and decided to fully commit to his role, and so we're really entrepreneurs at this point. And so we were talking about this idea of the employee life, right? The employee balance of like where you're working and what you're doing. And I personally feel so much better about like being out and trying to hustle a little bit for myself, that there's this very dramatic difference between today's payday. Cool. Right. I'm getting paid today, and I'm going to go to dinner tonight, and I'm going to take the kids to a ball game this weekend or whatever. And then there's this other side of it, which is like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get a paycheck this week because I didn't do enough work for clients or whatever it is. And so going back to this idea of learning, and are you going to take the time to figure out the art of the possible and try to push yourself forward, your organization forward, and all of those things? Like it sort of comes down to this, like, are you lazy or not? Like, are you feeling motivated or not?
I don't think it's really. I think in some cases, it's not laziness or motivation, because I know lots of marketers who work really hard. I think one of the things that gets in the way of a lot of marketers with doing different stuff than they just like rinse and repeat kind of stuff is because there are put up sort of gates or hurdles, right, with getting stuff to market, right? So there's a lot of effort that goes into getting something right as opposed to good enough, right? So you said that, or I think it was about what you said, and quickly seeing if it works, right? So that, I think that's one of the things I've seen, especially at bigger companies, where you go through so many levels of review and approval, and then it takes, people are wondering, like, why can't we just update that webpage? So why does it take a week, right? It's not because it's not hard to update, but people they're afraid of, like, it's going to be off brand, or like I tend to lean towards like, just go, right? And do enough to make sure you're not going to do something that's really egregiously wrong. And even if you do that, like, learn from it, don't do it again.
Yeah.
But so I'll kind of summarize what you both said, because I think it's a combination of both. Right? It's like you need the right attitude, right? But you also have to have the right context to get the right attitude. Like, you can be chilling at a company and, do a good job, and you're like, I'm chill, I'm doing work-life balance, I'm going on the weekend, I have fun, right? And then to your point, Mike, you're like, I'm an entrepreneur here. Like, I got to make it work. Like that, the context forces you to have a different attitude. It's either you're going to, do it or become creative and figure it out, or, you'll just fail, and then, you'll go try something else because you couldn't like have the right attitude, using your word here, Michael, right? I think that's just the cycle of life. And I don't think there's like, everybody should always be at full speed and things like that. It's just, it's like, well, not even at full speed, but like you can just, using the example, like you go there, you learn a ton of things, you learn how to program, that's great. Like, then, you go try something new, you learn something, and then, maybe you don't learn something for like 3 years. That's okay too, right? Like, and then I think the problem is like when people stop learning and people stop adapting, like, so many people, I'm saying market across the board. Like you said, what was the last time you learned something to up level your skills? It doesn't seem like take a course or something. It's like you learn at your job, working with a new peer, new colleague, things like that. And like, actually, I've been doing the same thing for 5 years, and I feel like that's the real problem. And that's like where you get like swept away by people who come in. It's like, I've been using GPT, it's my copilot. Not saying they're replacing people. I think GPT, things like that, like, a copilot, an enhancer to people, right? And it's like, you just like, how is this person writing so much ad copy, and their ad copy works better? Oh, they just brainstorm with GPT all day, right? And their ads are performing better than yours just because they can iterate quicker, because they have this assistant to help them iterate. Like, just simple things like that, right? Like, get them ahead. And then it's like one fix lead to the other. It's like, oh, why is sales doing better? It's like, he's using intent data from blah, 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 right? And, like, that's the that's the mentality that you don't want to sink into. Is like the person who's like, I haven't learned something new in 5 years. Whether it's
I mean,
the colleague or anything.
Definitely not. And then the other point that like, so where I branched off of for a moment was like, hey, if someone understands, the art of the possible when it comes to sort of data orchestration and what you can do with it. So sometimes it's like, to your point, Hartman, like, there might be a lot of like roadblocks in the way to be able to get something done. And so I can argue that that's actually just a factor of laziness. Like I have to deal with all this stuff and I don't really want to, depending on the person's response to that situation. But if you were presented with a challenge and someone said, hey, I really need to try to figure out how to do this thing, and you now know how to take data from one place and move it to another, and you're this new kind of data marketer, but then you recognize openly, like, that's a lot of work. that actually falls outside of the norm of the way we normally do things at this company. Do I really want to try that? Is the company gonna like that? Is that for me? Is it for them? So there's all this, like, you become this intrapreneur that's like, I can solve this problem. I promise you I can solve this problem, but like no one here has done this before. And so I'm going to forge out on this path that like feels very different. And that is where I was like, that's what branched off of. If you start learning this new skill set and you figure out how to solve these really unique problems in unique ways that don't fit into the quote unquote box of how things are normally done, you're going to run up against hurdles. And then it's going to take very specific individuals who want to try to forge that path forward.
Well, to fruition. What you're describing is like swimming upstream against the idea that we should all be following best practices.
Yes. Right? Yeah.
Because like by definition, that's doing what everybody else is doing, and that's like not a recipe for long-term success, probably. So this has been a great conversation. I want to kind of get back to the not cookie per se, but I think I keep coming back to. I felt for a long time that like just within marketing ops, but let's go broader to marketing in general. Right? There's a gap in skills and experience of knowing how to really take advantage of data that's been collected. And it feels like that's still going to be, not only is that still a problem, that's going to be an ongoing problem if we don't address it, especially as we continue, like as we're developing even more and more data through first party cookies and things like that. What do you see, like, how would you suggest for our listeners that they start to address it? Is it skill up leveling? Is it looking for specific people? Like, I don't have the answer. I just see it as a problem and I don't know how to solve it.
I think it's like being curious about it. Like if you know you have this pain, there's a lot of way to solve it. I think, the way I've learned data is like, I was friend with someone at work that was in the data team, and I had because I had all my questions about data, and he was the person I used to go to. And so bit by bit, I started to learn about the concepts of data, right? And then, I was like, I just don't want to talk to him anymore. Like I don't want him to be a bottleneck, right? And so I started learning. And so but I have enough information about the world of data that I could start learning by myself, right? And after that, you take a course, you do some training online, like to learn SQL, to start query, and then you practice. And it's not that complicated, right? Like I think it starts with like being curious and having a need. Like if today people are like, I'm just gonna go this weekend and start learning SQL, and you have no purpose for it, like it's gonna be it's gonna be a chore to learn something, and you don't want learning to be a chore, right? Like I think we have other things to worry about than that. And so that's where we approach, like either meet up someone in your team that is more data savvy than you, work with them, find interesting project to work together, go learn how to query data. Don't become a data engineer or something, but understand how data is modeled, like how to query it, like what a big core concept, right? And then finally, I'll do the GPT plug, but the rate of things are going, like you can start I use it myself today. I can write pretty good SQL, but like sometimes I'm like, God, I just don't know how to do this. And I know enough that I can ask GPT, is like, can you write me a winnowing function that query this data? This is my data set. And then it just query the data. I know enough to know that what it's giving me is correct, but like, I rely on my good friend GPT to help me do the work, and I think you can't just start there, but I think in the future it will help you. You might be able to start there, but I think it's a good accelerator and assistant. That's my
and I suspect that there's a number of our listeners, audience, or whatever that don't have a colleague who's a data expert. So maybe also going into communities, right, to find others and just look for. Like, it's amazing how much people will help you learn.
Yes, I mean, I use communities every day.
Yeah.
Every time I have a Salesforce problem, God knows we have so many all the time, 24/7.
What?
It's
Never.
built like that. It's built that way. That's our business model.
Pretty much.
That's where the community. That's where the community comes in. It's like, hey, what's the best of the 20 million way I could do it in Salesforce? Tell me what's going to go wrong if I do this one. That's where the community comes in. The shared experience.
Evaluating the trade-offs very quickly, like crowdsourcing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it all the time.
Yeah, I do too. Well, it feels like we could go on and on here, but I think we're gonna have to wrap up here. So thanks for joining us. This is one of the ways that I learn still and stay current is just having these conversations. I think I learn something every time. But so thank you so much. If folks are interested in kind of keeping up with what you're doing, the communities, et cetera, what's the best way for them to do that?
I'm on LinkedIn under my name, so easy. Like every good marketer, I'm in there replying to DM. Our social network is there, so I'm out there. My email was sylvain@getcensus.com. I'm sure I'll put it in the show notes, the link and all that stuff. But these are kind of like the two best way. If you have questions, you want to chat about anything, always at down to chat about other people's like tech data problem. And also, obviously, I'm in the marketing ops community, so you can DM me there too.
Fantastic. Well, this it's been great. Mike, thank you.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll get Naomi back here soon. I know she's had quite an adventure recently. I'll let her share that when she's ready. She'll be back. To all of us, you listeners and viewers, if we actually get this out on video. So thank you for allowing us to invade your personal space. I think I stole that from some movie or something. I don't remember.
Good job.
Anyway, until next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.